It's time for the Daily Stand Up Podcast presented by Agile Dad with your host, Lee Henson. Without any further ado, let's get started. I recently received an email from one of my students, and she was asking for my help with something that was rather interesting. She said, Lee, she says, I feel like when I'm at work that I could be a whole lot more productive, but there's something shutting me down. Do you have any tips that you could help me learn so that I can increase my productivity at work? And while I can't guarantee it's going to 10x your productivity at work, I can guarantee that I can give you some tips that are certainly going to help you increase your productivity. Now, many of these tips can be found in things like David Allen's Getting Things Done or Disney Management Institute's Guide to Being an Effective Leader or the Habits of Highly Effective People. I mean, there's plenty of places you can find versions of these tips. But the ones that I'm going to give you my top 4 or 5 that I think would be optimum for you if you're working in an agile environment, potentially working remote. I want to give you some things that are going to help you be better, right? So let's see, where should we start? So coming right out of the gate, I guess I should tell you the logic behind this. I think part of the reason that we feel like we're not being effective is constant context switching. Too many people try to do the whole, oh, I can multitask or context switch quickly. And what they're quick to discover is that that's not necessarily the case. That there's so many things going on that prohibit them or inhibit them from being able to effectively change from one thing to another and quickly change their flow of their work. And what they find is that they quickly become the person who has 5 important things they need to do, but they're spending 86% of their time on one, 74% of their time on the next, 63% of the time on the third one, 36% on the fourth one, and 84% on the fifth one. Add that together, and somehow that equals 100% of your time. Don't ask me, it's Common Core math, right? I think that we need to get to the point where we can find some solutions, some things that we can do that are quick and easy that are going to help us be more effective. So here we go. So some of these may affect your personal and professional life. So hang in there. Okay. The first one, when browsing on the internet or trying to get things done, don't leave multiple tabs open for more than an hour at a time. Don't leave a whole bunch of things open. Now, one of the things that I do, if I'm guilty of this, is if I know, for example, I'm going to be recording additional podcast episodes, I will have some topics for the podcast, some stories that people ask me to read, and the actual tab where I record the podcast. And I will open those up and put a little folder called podcast, and I will bundle them all together. That way, I have one tab that says podcast. And when I'm ready to do that, that is one of the things on my to do list. But here it comes. When I'm done, I close it. And what this does is it takes that off of my plate. So that way, I'm not constantly going back and revisiting. Same is true when I'm updating the website for Agile Dad, or when I'm trying to plan for classes, or if I'm trying to book Zoom links, or trying to update my Calendly. I think you see where I'm going with this. Too many people keep too many things open at the same time. And when you do this, the natural cause is for you to want to try to get everything done. Now, I do have one additional piece of advice, and this one came from none other than Mr. Wonderful. Mr. Wonderful told me once, he says, if there's certain things that you have to do that you don't get to, he says, make sure you create a sticky note and put those on the mirror so you can get to them first thing in the morning before you do anything else. And having 2 or 3 sticky notes that just remind you of the most important things are going to help you get things done. And it reminded me of the quote from Mark Twain, eat the live frog first, right? Find the thing that you don't want to do, the thing that stressed you out, and get it done right away. That way you're not worried about it. Okay. This second one has saved my hide a bunch. Here we go. Coming in at number 2, I turn off all notifications. What I found is that if I'm constantly getting bombarded with things popping up, oh, what about that? What about this? What about that? The only notifications that I will leave on is if there's any emergency messaging from any of my family members. Outside of that, I turn off all notifications when I'm teaching, when I'm coaching, when I'm presenting. And what I found is this is a lifesaver. Not only does the phone not ring or light up or disrupt any of my sessions, but it helps me to stay focused. So then after the class, I can compartmentalize all the requests that have been given to me, and I can work on those and knock those out instead of trying to do it as they appear. Because I find oftentimes if I'm working on something and a pop up comes up and it's something more important, I might jump and go work on that and then forget to go back to the other thing. And it just creates that same dichotomy of trying to do too many things at one time, right? Okay. Coming in at number three, this is another one that I think is kind of unique. Block out time to work alone, but also balance that with blocking out time for your family, your loved ones, and your friends. And here's what I mean by that. Too many times I find that I don't block out time. And then maybe my wife has something, or my kids have something, or we need to go to a store or to an appointment or something, and they want me to be part of it. And rightfully so. But the point I'm trying to make is if we're constantly being disrupted and we don't have the blocked out time for us to actually physically get the things done that we need to do, we're going to quickly discover that we won't have time to do everything. So one of the things that I do is I'll block out time for my family, at least a day a week, and then especially on the weekends, I try not to do any work at all. We also do a thing where for every so many weeks I work, I try to take a week off, so that way I can spend a whole week doing things that are necessary. Now during that week, I'll block out a set number of hours per day to do catch up work, so that way I'm prepared for the following week. But I certainly do not have just open ended, hey, book anything time. Because what I found is when you do that, that's when you tend to get lost in everything else that's going on around you, right? Okay. Another way to increase your productivity at work. Coming in at number four, eliminate as many meetings as possible. If you don't have the correct people in the meeting, the roster, the agenda, the time box, if you don't have all these things there, then I'm not going to be there. If there's no purpose for this meeting, or if there's no clear agenda, or whatever the case may be, I'm not going to show. And what I do is I let people know ahead of time that these are my guidelines for attending meetings, and these are the guidelines that I have for my teams attending meetings. And if I'm coaching, if those guidelines aren't met, we're not going to attend. And what I found is that if you time box the meetings and make them fast enough, only invite the people that need to be there and stop inviting everybody, and really press on consolidating meetings and meeting times, that's going to help you really increase your productivity. And then my final one, the fifth one, probably the most important one, you need to find ways to limit work in progress, limit your WIP, WIP. And that means that if you have five things that you're working on, great. Understand that you're not going to do all five at the same time. Sort through, do some kind of pecking order, figure out which one, not the most important, but the most urgent, because we often get confused between importance and urgency. The truth is, everything that we're being asked to do in our personal and professional lives is important, but there needs to be a good, better, best system in place so that we can figure out which things are the most urgent and tackle those first. So I hope those 5 tips are useful to you. I hope they keep you going. If you have a topic you want us to discuss, don't forget to reach out to learn more at agiledad.com. We'd love to hear about your topic or an article you want us to review. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care. We'll see you soon.